Hey friend, how are you? Thank you so much for coming back to another week of Shit I'm 30 with me, your host, Carla Wilmaris. Now, this seriously feels like a quarantine coronavirus series of episodes. We're all in our houses. We're quarantined. We're doing virtual interviews, and I'm so glad that I'm able to teach each and every one of you guys that have podcasts how to record it so it seems like you're literally in the same place. So if you want to learn more about that, head over to Idea to Launch, which is my academy, Idea to Launch Academy, and I'm teaching you guys all kinds of tips and tricks to make sure that you're putting out content even though you cannot make it to a studio, and you don't have to sacrifice your audio. So right now, today, I have an episode with Stephanie. She is actually a student of mine as well as a patron. And we're going to be talking about being a parent of a special needs child. I think we all have our struggles in parenting, but we haven't yet spoken about, those fears that we might have and those challenges that parents face when they not only have to have a kid that's driving them crazy, but at the same time, they need a lot more support from the parents than, some. It's just a different type of challenge. So we're going to talk to Stephanie about her journey with her son. And please, if you have any questions on this, and if you want to ask, or you have any stories about you and your child, or whatever your thoughts might be, reach out to me, Carla Wilmaris, Twitter, any social media. You can email me at shitim30podcasts@gmail.com, and I will answer that for you. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Before we do start, I want to go ahead and read one of the reviews, because you guys have taken your time to review this podcast for me on Apple Podcasts, and I'm absolutely grateful. So if you have not done so yet, you're quarantined now, you have no excuse. Go really quick for free, 60 seconds of your time, and rate and review on Apple Podcasts or on iTunes on your computer. A lot of us have iTunes on our computer. And I want to go ahead and read to you this week's review, and it comes from Joe6160, and it says, "Best show ever. Everything from beginning to end is something I can relate to. Looking forward to listening to each episode." Thank you so much for your review. I tell you guys that it keeps me going. It keeps me fueled to read them. And again, it costs you nothing but 60 seconds of your time and your support. So now let's get to the show. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Shit I'm 30 with me, your host, Carla Wilmaris. Today's recording, I think it was supposed to start about an hour ago. Well, I was late. Then tech issues. Part of the coronavirus thing is that we're just going to do all this with tech. We're not in front of each other. I'm trying to figure out how to not catch the Rona and still give you guys amazing content with great people. And we just had last week an episode with Imani, and it was so much fun to record with her. And she happens to be one of my students. And then while I'm on live, and that I think I talked about with Mandy on her last show that I talked about being an ambivert, and I was very much an extrovert. Then I became kind of like an introvert and didn't want to socialize with people. And then I came back out and I'm like, well, I'm dealing with that by becoming very social online. So aside of my, regular lives and Instagram people, I have my amazing crew of students that are always coming on. So I have my intensive students. I have the ones that do self-paced. And Stephanie is one of my patrons and a student. So hello, Steph.
Hi. So happy to be here, even after all the technical difficulties.
But that's the thing about podcasting, that everybody thinks like, oh my God, this is going to be so crazy. It's going to be so hard. How are we going to do it? I am literally a self-taught engineer. So are you. Mm-hmm. And we sat there for 30 minutes. If you keep trying, we're going to figure it out.
Right.
She couldn't hear me for 20 minutes. Then I couldn't hear her. Then the microphone wasn't working. And then it was just a mess. But here we are, and it's working.
We did not give up. I said, no, not today, Satan. Not today.
Not today. Listen, I have been through times where I lose full episodes, and it fucking sucks. Mm-hmm. But again, that's perseverance with anything that we do. Just keep trying. You keep trying, and whatever failures, now we figured out how to troubleshoot your computer. You figured out how to troubleshoot your audio interface. We figured all this out. This is exactly what I'm trying to figure out right now, that I have Ayana home for the next, I don't know how long. And that's one of the things that I want to speak about on the Shit You Should Know. I talked about it last week, and is the fact that there's really no articles out there that I can find that don't have anything to do with fucking coronavirus.
It's crazy.
Everything, every news outlet, every Shade Room and Blavity, and I go to Buzz News, everything is corona. Yeah. The world has stopped for it.
For sure.
So, you're in New York, right?
I'm in the Bronx, yes.
You're in the Bronx.
I am.
So the Bronx, before we go into like who you are and why I have you here, I know that everything is pretty much kind of shut down in New York.
Mostly. I work in healthcare. I'm not working today just because I needed a mental health break, honestly. This corona just gave me anxiety. It really messed with my anxiety. So I just needed to take a couple of days off for myself. And
right, as you should. And that's what we get paid. That's what you get paid for. And that's what you have PTO for. And that's why they have extra employees. And I think this time has helped us realize the fact that the world can stop. You know, I saw a post, I don't know if it was on Facebook or on Instagram, where they were like, this just shows us that airline tickets could be cheaper. It shows us that they don't have to shut off our water. They don't have to shut off our lights. We can feed everybody if we needed to. Like, the money is there. So it just showed us a lot of things. And it also shows you that when you need a break, take a fucking break.
For sure.
Your job will be just fine. But here, Orange County Public Schools in Florida, where my daughter goes to school, they canceled as of yesterday. It was until, or a couple days ago, it was March 30th. Yesterday, Carla lets me know while I'm taking a shit that it was April 15th, which made me shit even more. I swear I emptied out my entire stomach when she said April 15th. I said, what? So she sends me the article because I don't believe her. So April 15th, and now they are in talks of, for the rest of the year, making it a virtual thing.
Yeah. So when they first shut down the schools, because we were the last ones to shut down schools, I think Florida closed their schools before New York City schools were closed. New York City public schools. So when they officially closed it, it was up until April 20th. That's what it was. Now they're in talks for the rest of the year.
Yes. And for me specifically, and I'm having you on here, we're going to talk about parenting and like different styles of parenting and what you went through in your pregnancy and with your son, right?
Yes.
The boy.
Yep. 10 years old.
Oh, Jesus. I talked about, and I think Imani pointed it out to me. I didn't realize, I guess patrons get it a little bit more, that for the past couple of weeks, maybe the last 2 months, I've been going through it as a mom. Going through it, and it's just like whatever is in the air, we can call it Mercury, we can call it teenage years, whatever the fuck we want to call it. I've been going through it, and it got really, really bad last week for me and Ayana. Like, bad. I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't think I can parent. It was a cry for hours every single day. And Monday was supposed to be her psychology appointment with a psychologist, and I'm like, finally we're gonna get her therapy. I'm back in therapy. This is gonna be great. School is gonna be awesome because it's a break from me from her, and then she's gonna go to therapy so we can figure this out. And then this happens.
It's so like God is testing us all.
The test is intense. So today I'm taking a shower, and good, my eyes aren't swelling anymore. I was crying, and I'm like, what is this? So I'm like, how can I find the silver lining in all of this? Because I think I just talked about this recently. I don't know if it was on IG or on the podcast, where I was like, I will never homeschool. I will never homeschool. And Vakai, who was actually here when I spoke, she was my episode 98. The other woman, one of those episodes that y'all just loved.
Loved it.
That episode. Quote unquote messy episode, but it was actually really good. I don't intend for it to be messy at all, and I'm glad that it wasn't. But she actually started homeschooling her son, who is, I think, 2 years or 3 years old, younger than Ayana. And I remember when they went to homeschool, I was like, hell no, that will never be me. I could not do it. And this is literally, I think, in January, and now this happens. And I was so adamant, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I think this is God's funny way of showing me, well, your situation is so bad that we kind of need to eliminate all outside factors and just focus on you and Ayana.
Right.
Just focus you on her. So now we're here, with the schedule, and every day I hear at least 6 times a day, what's up with the stupid schedule? You think I'm in the military? This is just so dumb. Why is it so strict? And I'm like, it's strict because it's a schedule. Oh, but it doesn't have to be so strict. It's a schedule. We go by the time on the schedule. Like, what do you mean?
You would have a schedule if you were in school.
Thank you. So when we're outside running our mile in the morning, the first day was terrible. Yesterday was pretty bad. Today it got better. And I'm like, now she was able to jog for 2 minutes straight without stopping. We were doing sprints, and I'm like, see, it's getting better. And she's like, you're not going to tell me how I feel. No, it doesn't. And I'm like, you're a fucking brat. But I feel like it's getting a little bit better. She just walked in here. She's like, do you want me to start on lunch? And I'm like, you know what? Take an extra hour and keep reading your book and watch TV while I record. And I will deviate from the schedule. I'm not military. Right. And I'm not one of those people that are super strict that way, but we're sticking to something. So just to let you guys know that most schools, if you are a parent, we'll probably be gone for the rest of the year and we'll be virtual parents. So I'll tell you another one of my concerns when it comes to that in a little bit. But I have Steph here because while I was trying to brainstorm, I want to, batch record some content and have everything ready for the next couple of weeks because I did fall a little bit behind. I'm like, what should we talk about? And there's one thing I've never spoken of, and that is having a child with special needs. How do you say it?
A child with special needs.
Child. A child with special needs.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Now, can you take me through? We have talked about you having a child with special needs. I know you told me I think your son is quarantined right now with his dad.
Yes, he is in Brooklyn.
Well, that's far.
Yeah, that's what caused my anxiety attack. I think it was just too much for me.
How old is he?
He's 10.
10. Okay, so take me. And how old are you?
I am 34.
Perfect. So you had him at 24 years old. So let's go back. What is his special need?
So
what is he diagnosed with?
He is nonverbal autistic.
So he doesn't speak at all?
I'm not going to say he doesn't speak at all, but he doesn't have sentences. So he has one-word utterances and things like that, but he can't hold a conversation.
Wow. That is really hard. I have had some contact with autistic kids. And another thing, I'll talk about my problematic ways later. Let's not start with that right away. Let me give it a second before people start cussing me out. So can you take me back to at 24 years old, you're pregnant. Do you know, how does that go? Tell me a little bit about that.
Everything was, quote unquote normal. I had a normal pregnancy. He was actually late. He was 2 weeks late. And 10 pounds. So it was pretty crazy.
Shit. Your fucking vagina.
Well, no, I had a C-section. So.
Thank God.
it just would not happen either way. So it was a normal, typical pregnancy. And we didn't actually notice anything was off until he was about 2 years old. So he was able to count to 5. And then out of nowhere, he just wouldn't do it anymore. And his progression just stopped. So we took him, to the pediatrician. We were concerned. The problem is they won't diagnose a child with autism until they're 5 years old. So, right. So what they do is they diagnose them with something called pervasive, I don't even remember the whole thing. It's PDNOS. So it's basically, before you can be diagnosed as autism, you're just in a delay period. Okay. So they're trying to figure out exactly how far the delay is and things of that nature. So we had him in early intervention. So my child has been in school since he was 2 years old.
So personality disorder not otherwise specified.
Yes. PDD.
PDD-NOS. Yeah. Okay, so they diagnose him with a personality disorder and they don't know what the hell's going on.
Right. Exactly.
Basically, I'm going to give you something just to let you know something's going on, but we don't know what.
Right, just so we can get the services that we needed. So they put They put him in speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and in a small classroom setting.
Okay.
So that
Did they ever check for? So going back to when Ayana was born, she was a preemie and she didn't speak. So for a very long time, we didn't know what was wrong until we realized that she couldn't hear. So her first thing was sign language, and we had to have some. So did you have to go through all of that first to make sure that it's not ear blockage and all that?
We did. We had tubes put in his ears when he was about 3 years old, because he was suffering from ear infections at that time as well. So they thought it could have been that, but. He's fine. He can hear just fine. It's just that's what his diagnosis is at this point.
So from 2 to 5, you didn't know he was autistic?
I knew. As a mom, I knew. Once we spoke to the doctor and that was what it could be, I went into my Googles and I went crazy researching, and I just knew. As a mom, I just knew. And it took a lot. I was in denial for a very long time, even though I knew.
I wanted to ask you about denial because I knew of someone who had a child, and I was pretty sure this kid was blind. I kind of knew he's no longer with us. He passed away, I believe, at 7 months. But I just knew something was off with the baby. And even with Ayana, with her being a preemie, she was so little and really behind on certain things as a baby. I know, I'm like, there's something wrong. And she was here, but the parents never noticed it. Yeah. They would still treat him like a normal baby. And I can understand wanting to have, quote unquote, a normal child. all 10 toes, like all the motor skills or whatever a kid, all those milestones go through them. And you sometimes kind of make it up even in your head as a parent.
Right.
Thinking that they're okay. So how did you deal with, because before you notice it, other people notice it?
Well, yes and no, because he was so little, so he wasn't around a lot of people. Though the people who did bring it to my attention, we were trying to get him into like play groups and clubs and things like that. So with Ethan, my son's name is Ethan, with his autism, he doesn't like loud noises. It's not good for him. It gives him anxiety.
Right.
So when he was little, we would go to these play groups and, you know, they have the tambourines and they're singing and they're playing, and he would melt down. Like, you couldn't keep him in the room. He would just bug the fuck out. And we were literally kicked out of like 2 play groups. They said, we cannot, we cannot accommodate your child.
Have you watched the show Atypical?
Oh my goodness, yes. Netflix? I cried that whole first season. It just hit so close to home. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm a crybaby, please.
But there's definitely something that, from what I know about autism, he wasn't a cousin, but it was kind of like a cousin, and it was like a family friend's son type thing. And I remember him, he must be probably a couple years younger than I am, but he was very strong. He did not speak. And the one thing I'll never forget about him is he bit the shit out of my aunt's titty one time.
Oh boy.
When I tell you, bit it, I thought she was going to lose her. I thought it was hilarious at the time because it wasn't my tit. I didn't have any at the time, so it didn't even matter. But I do remember the challenges that came with having a child with autism. And I actually, at this point, I didn't know your son had autism. So what are some of the things that you go through, like when you find out and you know this is exactly what it is? How do you tell yourself this is how I'm going to deal with it? Because I think as a parent, and I'll say this to be completely transparent, because I've spoken about, I do want to have another child, and I am terrified because we all want this perfect pregnancy and this kid to come out and for it to be just easy, smooth sailing. And for me, it wasn't the first time around with Ayana. It wasn't easy. Still not easy to this day. We were in the hospital all the time, but she wasn't special needs. She just had medical needs. And I think it's different, but the same, because you're just in and out. You never know what's going to happen.
It's just different obstacles.
Completely different obstacles. So how did you tell yourself, listen, I feel like as women, we're like, this is what my reality is, and we get it together. But some people, you see them just crash and say, I can't deal with this. How did you tell yourself, this is how I'm going to deal with it?
So it took a couple of years. I fell into a very deep depression. I gained about 80 pounds in 6 months.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was
6 months.
In 6 months. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. It was ridiculous.
Okay.
I was with my son's father. I met him when I was 19. I had my son when I was 24. So we were together for quite some time by the time I had Ethan. We broke up by the time I was 27. So I want to say...
So he was 3.
He was 3. So it was basically a year after his diagnosis.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that had something to do with it. You know, we were just different people. We went about it in different ways. He's coming more into it now. I think I had my awakening around Ethan's diagnosis earlier than he did.
Niggas want to take their time for everything.
Always.
And we have to do it right away.
So in the beginning, I didn't want anyone to know that he was autistic. I didn't want anyone to know what was going on.
Oh, wow.
It was like, you know, I would portray this front where my child is perfect. And he is. My child is perfect. But
of course.
Yeah. But you know, back then you think when there's something wrong, you think less of it. And that's not, you know, he's not less, he's just different.
But that's a social thing.
It definitely is a social thing. So, you know, me just accepting it, reading more on it, just finding ways to connect with my son in a different way, because he doesn't speak, so we can't have conversations. But, you know, we connect through different ways, through different things. I know what his triggers are now, 10 years later. I know what to avoid. I know how to, you know, conduct the household so that it's comfortable for him.
Right, you can't have loud, like you said, loud noises. So even though he can't speak, you can't just turn on the TV and for it to just be loud.
Well, no. See, that's the thing. It's more so he's comfortable in his space. So it's when we go outside and, you know, we don't go to parties. Ethan had his first birthday party, and then we didn't have another birthday party until he turned 10 years old. We just recently
How did he do that? How did he do that?
Well, so he likes to swim. So we rented like a pool, and his birthday, he's a summer baby like me. So we went to a pool and we had a pool party. You know.
Okay.
It was
so he can swim, and all his motor skills are normal.
All of his motor, he toe walks. So he walks on his toes, so his legs are a little tight. So running and things like that is difficult for him. He can walk, but running is a little difficult.
Why is that?
It's about so he putting your feet flat on the floor, it's a sensory thing. So for him, he likes to just walk on the tips of his toes instead of planting his feet on the ground.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we have like special shoes for him and the whole nine. So
you were so young dealing with all of this.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, 24, your entire 20s kind of, you spent them trying to figure out how to deal with your kid. How do you deal with people's opinions? I remember I had a million opinions about what I should and shouldn't do with Ayana. You shouldn't give her that medication. Maybe you should get more doctors to give you diagnoses. Maybe she doesn't have this. What about that? And I'm just thinking, when you said I knew
Right.
something was wrong with my baby. I knew at 5 years old when she had this crazy growth spurt and, what's it called? Too much hair and body odor. I'm like, a 5-year-old's not supposed to have body odor.
Right.
Something is wrong.
Right.
And I take her to this doctor and they're like, for sure, this is what's going on. So we know, but people have so many fucking opinions. And with mine, you can't tell from looking at her. With your son, I'm sure once they spend 5 minutes around him, they realize that there's something going on. How do you deal with those opinions and people just, their remarks?
Right. So the first thing I get all the time is Ethan doesn't look autistic, which is crazy because autism doesn't have a look. My child
It's not like Down syndrome.
Right. He's a regular kid. He just has social issues. His main thing is social issues as well as the not speaking. But the social issues comes from him not being able to speak. So for a very long time, I was on the defensive. I would I still watch over this child like a hawk when we're outside. I watch him. I watch the people around him. I look at how people look at him. And I'm ready on 10, Mama Bear. I will fight anybody. I do not care. And it's crazy, but that's how I was. I've calmed down a little bit now because I can't always be like that because people don't know. And that's what I've come to realize. Right. I have to educate people because people this isn't something that it's common and it's becoming even more common. But when Ethan was born, I think it was 1 in 22 boys had autism. Now it's 1 in 8.
Wow. Oh, do you, and I didn't even think about, asking you this question, but I think it's becoming more known through social media, the vaccinations. Are you one of the parents that believe that vaccines does this?
I do because
really
I do. When I said he was able to count until 5, he would show me his fingers and all of that. And then we had the vaccinations and then it just was a steady decline until it didn't happen anymore. So I really do think it was the vaccinations.
Since I don't have an extensive background in looking into autism, is autism a thing that's gradual and that like studies, I guess, of autism, or is something that you're just born with?
They don't know. It could be environmental. It could be biological. They don't know yet. So it could be that, vaccines, maybe it was something in his DNA that didn't, go well with the vaccinations, and that's what happened.
So if you were to have another child, would you not vaccinate them?
I don't know. Honestly, I'm so scared. That's another fear of mine, is having another kid. I want
having another child.
I mean, I'm single right now, so that's not happening anytime soon. But but if I were to be with someone and they wanted a kid, like, that scares me, and that's a conversation that we would have to have because I feel like he takes so much of my attention. And I wouldn't want him to feel like the attention is coming off of him to go to a baby.
He's 10. Before you know it, he's a teenager.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be a big boy. How does that work? Because the one kid that I did tell you that was a family friend, they had to put him in a home. Right. He was too strong and too big as a boy, especially for boys. Do you have a plan for that? So
I've been blessed. My child is very calm. He's my height now, so it's kind of scary. But he listens for now. he's not violent. Like, I know you said, you know, the friend of your family bit and things like that. He doesn't do that.
He was violent.
Yeah.
This kid would just lash out, and once they had to lock the fridge because he would go in the fridge and eat all the food, and we're like, oh my God. There's times that I jumped up and I would run. I told you we were only a couple years apart.
Right.
So I'd see him coming and I'd be like, ha, I'm out. You're not going to catch me and beat me up because he was strong.
Yeah, no, I don't have that issue with Ethan. I'm not nervous about that. What I am nervous about is because he is a boy. So I'm trying to have him spend more time with his dad just because, you know, he needs a male figure in his life to know like what it is he's supposed to do. He can't mimic me at this point. He's so big. But yeah, me being scared of him or anything like that, no, I've never had that.
Or just like the plan for him to be an adult.
Yeah.
Is he able to care for himself as an adult? Will he be able to? Is he projected to be able to?
That's the plan. So we have him in programs where they teach him social living and things like that, you know, learning how to be outside and learning how to go to the store and, you know, things like that. Will he be self-sufficient? Probably not.
So how's that going to affect you in dating? Have you dated since his dad?
Yeah, I've been in 2 relationships since breaking up with him, and the first relationship, he was very great with Ethan. That was not the issue whatsoever. We were not compatible. Right. My second relationship, it was interesting because he actually would say to me that I put my son too high up. Yeah.
Excuse me. That's what I figured you might get from men that are not mature, not ready for a real, you know, committed relationship with I wouldn't say baggage, but with, you know, what you come with, because it's a package deal.
For sure.
Like, I'm a package deal. Like, Ayana and all the shit she has going on, we are a package deal. And it freaked me out. And this is one thing that I did want to talk to you about as mom. And we both have our issues with our kids. I was having really bad anxiety recently when I went to my therapist because there's so much of me that I put onto wax when it comes to Ayana. Right. Well, I don't put onto, it's my everyday life. So we talk all day, every day. So I'm like, I'm going through this, or this motherfucker this, or I'm mad, or if we're here at home and her and I are arguing and he, you know, I see him and he'll take her outside to speak to her. If her and I are in the middle of something, he'll grab himself and go in the backyard and then come back and say, he's like, let me talk to you guys. But I'm like, is he going to run away from it? And at no point, every time he's just like, I'm here for the both of y'all. Like, she's mine.
And that's a blessing.
Mine. Very much so, because I do remember my last one, it wasn't like that. If me and Ayana got into an argument, he'd pick his stuff and be like, I'll see y'all later, deuces. Get in his car and not come back. And there was never a thing like, let me help both of you guys. Let me help her speak to you. Let me do something with her to give you a break. And it sucks because it's a long distance relationship. But I did want to see, how did you see yourself dating, and how do you introduce your child to them and his needs?
So from the beginning, anyone who I'm interested in dating knows about my child. I don't hide it. I'm very transparent when it comes to him. What my last relationship taught me is that I need someone who will love us both. And he would say, excuse me, he would say he loved Ethan. He loved spending time with us. Because like I said, my child, he's very timid. He's very quiet. He doesn't bother. You know, we go out, he's fine. But we were talking about if I were to get married, I don't know if I would want to take my husband's name, his last name. Just because I've
had this conversation.
If we were to have another child, all 3 of us would have the same last name, and Ethan would be, you know, kind of isolated. And it's weird because he probably doesn't even realize it, and it's just me in my own head. But it's just weird. So when I had that conversation, and I know it's kind of messed up because, I don't know, it's weird. I still feel that way, but I see why a man could be like, well, that's like, what about me? You know?
Right. I think once you find that man that brings you together and you're in love and you want their last name. You said your son's name is Ethan. I think Ethan knows his dad, you know? So I don't think it's more of a replacement, or my mom doesn't have my last name anymore. It's just, this is my family here. This is my family here. And my name is my dad's. And his dad that's still his man, his guy.
Right.
That, you know, who he who he sees himself in. So I don't think the last name is that big of a deal. I know my sister and I don't have the same last name. Although my dad was our dad, I learned, I think at 8 or 9, that her dad was different, but he had passed away when she was young. So my dad took care of her, but she has a different last name. And that never did anything for me. Now, I don't know how she felt about it. And I know she had her issues with it, but a lot of it had to do with how my mom navigated that relationship with us as kids and involving us into their bullshit, which is not good. But my dad was her dad, you know, and regardless of a last name, that was her dad.
Yeah. I think for me, Ethan's dad has basically stepped up to the plate more so in the past 2 years. So I was scared for a long time that it was just going to be me and him. Like, he would go with him and he would come see him and things like that, but it wasn't consistent. And one thing with my child is he needs consistency and he needs routine, because once it changes, that's his whole life, like, flips upside down.
Are you going to be able to put a man like first? You know, it's like my husband and my relationship and then my child. Will you be able to do that?
I think that's the goal. That's definitely why I'm in therapy.
Therapy definitely helps with that. Well, that is basically, you know, I wanted to highlight this specific aspect of, and I'm glad that you told me that you wanted to speak on it, because one, you're proud. You're like, listen, my son is autistic, so the fuck what? He got it going on. I think of my daughter and I'm like, listen, I talked about this with Megan Brown, navigating the corporate world, and we talked about the crazy boss that fired me. And when I told her that Ayana had her appointments, her telling me, oh, you know, you might not want this because you have a sick child. And I'm saying, like, this bitch. You know, they use that as a weapon against me, my daughter having whatever issues she had. And I'm like, my kid is just fine, but you're an asshole.
Right.
For that. But regardless of what our kids have, they might have all 10 toes and all 10 fingers, but we deal with different things. And I think that fear is valid. I do have the fear of having a special needs kid because I don't know how, I don't know how I'll be able to handle it.
Yeah. It's just different.
Because it takes a strong, you are strong.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how I would be able to deal. Ayana couldn't speak for those first 3 years. She didn't start speaking until 3 and some change. So Ayana would scream. I don't know if your son screams.
No, not so much.
So Ayana was just a loud pitch scream to tell me what she wanted, and she couldn't communicate. And that's when we had to start sign language because everything was screaming. And even through sign language, I still remember some, but it was her telling me more, but it was still with a scream.
Right.
And I'm like, shut up, shut up, please. Like, I get it.
I think what you just have to realize, and this is what I've come to realize, is they're just as frustrated as you are. Even more so, because he can't communicate everything that he wants and needs. So I feel like when he's home with me and I'm with him, I have to be intuitive. So if I see him get up, I'm looking at him like, okay, does he want something? You know, like I just have to, that's how I have to be. And I think it's kind of coddling in a way, but when it's just you and your child at home, like that's what ends up happening. So I'm trying to pull back a little bit and trying to get him to be a little bit more independent, because instead of him coming to me like, you know, water, I want water. And I'm just like, you know where the fridge is. You're 10 years old. You can open the fridge. You can get your cup and pour the water in your cup. Like you can do all of this, but he's learned to depend on me so much.
Okay. So he can't, does he go to the restroom?
He goes to the restroom by himself.
And can he shower alone as well?
Not well, but, you know, he does. But, you know, he's a boy, so. See, and that's the thing. Listen. He's my first kid, so I don't know what's autism and what's just him being a boy and being nasty.
Right. Just a kid, period, bro. Like, Ayana's just as nasty. It was not till the other day, bro, probably like 2 years ago, when she would turn on the shower, stay in the bathroom, shut off the shower, and never take a shower. And come back out. And I'm like, you stink. What are you doing? She just didn't want to go in the shower, or she would get in the shower, but the soap was never touched.
Right.
Dry ass soap. And I'm like, what did you bathe with? With soap. What soap? The soap is dry. There's no way the soap dried in 30 seconds. So some things are, you have nothing to compare it to.
So it's just, which
is probably even better. I would think maybe someone that had a quote unquote normal child and then has a child with special needs, you're comparing them both, and I can see where a frustration can come. But when you don't know any better, I think we talked about this with Lover's Quarrel. They've only been with each other sexually, so they don't miss anything because they've never had anything else.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't know what anything else is. So although you can watch all the porn and movies you want, you can see all the normal quote unquote kids out there, but that's not what you got. So you're used to what you have.
Right. My problem was I was comparing him with a lot of my friends' kids. So I would see their milestones, or they would talk to me and say, oh, you know, we're going to basketball practice after school, or he has to write a book report. And I'm just like, I don't have those issues. Like, our homework is very simple. It's very simple.
What school does he go to?
He goes to a public school. It's a District 75 school in the city.
But the public school has a program for him?
So they have their own separate building. It's a small school. There's probably maybe 5 classrooms, and each class has maybe 8 kids. So it's not a big school at all. He's been there since kindergarten. So he's grown up there.
Okay, so before we go to unsolicited, I am going to say my problematic word. So, and we've talked about this during our Patreon, because you are a patron. And Aries going to listen to this and be like, this motherfucker really going to bring this shit up. But for us 80s babies and before, we went to school, and there was, where you're saying, a different building with a small class, and it was the retarded kids. We, to this day, I'm trying to not use it just because if it offends people, I try to, if I can hold back, not say it. But it's one of those things that we're just used to. And I don't think I've ever meant it, not necessarily to hurt people or anyone that's special needs. I don't think I've ever used it towards a special needs kid or adult or anything like that. But at one point, does it upset you having a child with special needs when you hear the word retarded?
So I guess it just depends. In the beginning, it kind of did. But now, I find myself saying it. Like, I'll be at work and I'll be like, this fucking patient is so retarded. Like, I say it. I do say it. Like, I was born in the 80s too, so, like, I get it. It's just something that we say. For me, it's like, I don't call my child that. I don't want him to be labeled as retarded because it has such a negative connotation. Actually, a couple of years ago, we had an IEP meeting, and that's an actual clinical word. An IEP. It's an individual evaluation. I don't know what these acronyms mean, to be quite honest.
But for work?
No, it's for his school. So it's to plan his school planning, basically. So what he needs, what services he needs to be, you know, with the school system, and, you know, what they can provide us and things of that nature. So we were in this meeting with a psychologist, his teacher, and a couple of therapists. And, you know, the girl, the psychologist, she was young. She was maybe in her 20s. And she's just reading off a paper, and she says, you know, okay, so Ethan has been clinically diagnosed as retarded. I'm sitting in the meeting, and I'm like, what? I'm getting teary-eyed now, because I just started bawling. Like, my child is what? No, he's not, because that's such a negative word and has such a negative connotation with it. But it's literally it's a diagnosis. Like, that is what they're diagnosed as. So I try to.
So when you Google the word retarded, it tells you less advanced in mental, physical, or social development than is usual for one's age.
And that is what he is. But
so less advanced. But then it also says there's an informal aspect of the word as well, and it's called very foolish or stupid. So although it does the formal aspect of it is less advanced in mental, physical, or social development, it has been used to call somebody foolish or stupid. Right.
So when you hear the word growing up, you think, oh, he's just dumb, he's just stupid, and he can't take care of himself, you know? But that's not what it is. So when I hear people say it, it kind of, I feel it in my heart a little bit, but then in my brain, it just automatically clicks like, they don't know. They don't.
And this was recently in the meeting.
It was about 2 years ago.
Whoa. So I'm not super wrong. For those of y'all, when y'all hear me say the word retarded, I don't mean it in a way. I remember the kids, and I remember that's the retarded kids, and it wasn't in a negative way. Then I did remember the kids that were like pounding their heads on the wall and walking around with helmets, and then we wanted to make fun of someone that wasn't, And that's what people call them. Like, come on, you're acting like the retarded kids. But to me, and I only speak on my end. I wasn't saying it as in like, they're bad or fuck them. It's just more like, come on, stop with the bullshit.
Right.
But I can see how it's a negative thing because that's just how they are. And we just use their things like, yeah, maybe I should stop saying it as I'm talking about it. But I promise y'all, I don't mean it. I think it's one of those things that we grew up with. I don't think younger kids or maybe Ayana's age, they don't look at the word retarded now. They see it as completely offensive.
Right. And it's a generational thing. That we grew up saying something. Like we grew up, to quote Mandy, we grew up saying midget, you know?
What is wrong with midget?
I don't know. I get called, I'm short too. I'm only 5'2", so I'm not tall.
I'm never going to stop saying midget. Midget is not an offensive word. Who does it offend? Does it offend midgets?
I don't know.
Because I feel like, I don't even think it offends midgets. I think it offends people that are regular size. Why is it offending you? The midgets are fine. Right. They know they're midgets. So it's okay. Like little people. No, they're not little people. Little people are kids. Those are little people. These are grown people that are midgets. Right. Period, point blank. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way they were born. And some of them, they get more dick and ass than
it's a perspective thing for me. I just think people now, we're in an age where we have so much communication and so much access to communication that we have to, keep in mind who we're speaking to and try to, just be mindful of these type of words.
Very, very much so. Okay, so we're going to go take a quick break and then come back and do unsolicited advice.
Yay.
It's 2-second break. I just cut here. Let me see where it is. Okay, and we are back. This segment is unsolicited advice. So basically, I give you advice, and if you have a letter, any family drama, work drama, things that are going on with your boyfriend, your parents, and you want me to give you my very, very expert opinion and advice, because I really am an expert. At this point, I've been doing this for 106 episodes. I got this. I can help you. I am like PhD. Podcast PhD. So send an email to shitim30podcast@gmail.com and I will read your letter and give you advice. So today with you, Stephanie, the letter that we have, I'm going to name her Crystal. So letters from Crystal, and it says, please help me and thank you in advance. I suppose I'll start with the fact that I am 27 years old and a mother of 2. I got pregnant with my second child back in 2018 and she was born July of 2019. She is the light of our lives, but, and bear with me, I feel like I have zero connection with her from the day she was born until now. My mother-in-law had butted in, pretty much saying she knew more because she's done it with all 6 of her kids. From not letting me breastfeed to not letting me dress her how I would like to, she slowly but surely took over raising my daughter for me. Now, my husband gets mad at me telling me that I'm supposed to be the mother, that I should be the one caring for her. And I agree, but both his mother and grandmother have made it to the point that I feel like I'm incapable of even feeding her. I get anxiety whenever I hold my own daughter. I guess what I'm asking is, what would you do if you were in this position? Love, Crystal. Whoa. So
reclaim your daughter.
This is your daughter. But at this point, she's getting anxiety about it. You feel like you have no connection. And I think this is a time for you to step back and say, I need my daughter, and isolate yourself from these people. Boundaries. Yeah. The one word I'm looking at as I'm reading this and I'm thinking of this is like really bold and red. Boundaries. Sure. You need boundaries with your mother-in-law and with the grandmother-in-law. They need to sit in a fucking corner and worry about their kids that are now adults and are probably somewhere rampaging, doing drugs, or doing whatever the fuck they do. I'm just kidding. I'm talking shit. But you need to reclaim your time back with your daughter, and now it's going to be from step 1. And you said they didn't let you breastfeed. Say what?
I wish somebody would tell me what to do with my child.
They didn't let you breastfeed? I will slap a mother-in-law with my titty.
First of all, I'm speaking to my husband because you need to speak to your family and tell them to back the fuck up. That's first and foremost.
And it's your second kid, so I wonder, did it happen with the first one as well, or is maybe
it's a different dad.
Different dad. I'm thinking because if this probably didn't happen with the first one, if you still have a connection with your first one, I don't know, but you need boundaries ASAP, and it's going to hurt them. It's going to cause a rift. But if your husband at this point is telling you you're supposed to be the mother, then you need to tell him this is where you need to step up and tell your mom, back up. Right. I need time. And you're probably, because you're getting so anxious and mentally you're just not connecting, you might need to do some therapy. You might need to have someone help you with the baby at this point in time, because shit, not having a connection with your kid. And I'm not going to lie to you. There's times that I look at Ayana growing up. I'm one of those people I can emotionally detach very easily.
Same.
From people, from things, to not feel anything. So I'll just be fine, and then it won't catch up to me till now in my 30s where I had to pay all this money for therapy. So detaching is not, I felt like and I think I talked about this in the very, very early episodes of the podcast. I felt like a psychopath at times. I'm like, I must be a psychopath because I can detach myself so much and not feel. And what sucks about it is that with this whole thing that I have with my mother, I was just detached at first. And then when I had to start feeling all the feels, now I feel it all the time. And I'm like, this is bullshit. I want to go back to not feeling it.
Well, that's a defense mechanism. That's you not wanting to let anybody in.
Right. And I knew that was holding me back in a lot of aspects of my life. It helped me for some, but it hindered me more than it helped. So you need to now figure out a way to connect with your baby and say, fuck with them old bitches get mad. They already had their chance to raise their kids. They can go ahead and adopt somebody to be a foster parent if they want to raise somebody else's baby, but they can't be raising yours.
Right. And
you and your husband raise yours.
You just have to figure out a way to connect with that child personally. So like you can be a mom and still not have a true connection. And I think that's what, for me, I've been trying to do that with my son, because it's so difficult. He doesn't really have many interests aside from YouTube. He loves YouTube, loves listening to like cartoon jingles and this.
Listen, that's all kids.
Yeah, but
YouTube is their life.
So what I do is I'm hearing these cartoon jingles all the time, so I annoy the hell out of him. But just because that's our connection, I'll run into the living room and I'll start singing these jingles and I'll start dancing and pulling him and we're dancing and he's looking at me like I'm crazy. But these are things that he knows mommy does, you know? So he's like, mom is crazy, mom is silly, and that's just our connection. And I just think you have to find a connection with your child, with that child specifically alone, you know?
Yeah. What is that kid like? I have to like think about one of the things that my therapist just told me. She's like, well, Ayana likes to do nails, and I added a time slot for nails. She said, will you let her do your nails? And I said, no, I won't. I'll be completely honest with you, I won't. She takes too long. She has her dad's side's genes. They're very slow with everything they do. Like Ayana moves like molasses, and for someone like me who I'm always like go go go, it's very frustrating. She's just slow. Everything that she does, just slow as fuck. So she's like, okay, well, an alternative to that is she does her nails. You sit next to her and do your nails. So that is what I'm planning for, like this time that we have off, which seems like it's never going to fucking end. It's to have the time where, okay, she likes to do nails. I'm going to sit here and paint my own nails, although I don't do my nails. I hate doing my nails. It makes me very anxious, but I'm going to paint my fucking nails once a week or every 2 weeks with her, just to have that bonding time, because it's what she likes. And then in the morning she has to go run with me regardless whether she likes it or not, because it's for her own health. So I can't let this whatever depression she's going through take her down. So I'm trying to find bonding things with my kid, and it's okay to not feel connected sometimes. It's okay to not like them. I don't like this motherfucker at the moment. I don't. But I'm finding ways to bond with her. I know she loves pasta. She loves to eat. I love to eat too. So I'm like, okay, well, today we're going to make pasta together. And she's excited about that. And I'll tell her about the nails and she's going to like that. So just find a way to bond. And tell grandma again, grandma and
they just need to back up.
They have to have a fucking seat and a bleachers and just watch. They need to go. So my last segment, it is my shit talk. Do you have a shit talk? Because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't even know. Everything's just Corona. I'm trying to think of what has happened. Oh, I know. I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. So it actually has to do with Carla, my friend Carla. I saw her on Instagram, and she was at the gym. A few people have asked me, like, oh, is your gym closed? And I'm like, honestly, I don't think it's closed, but I'm not going. I don't care how much they're cleaning the gym. And I talked 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago about that. For me, Corona is not like as serious as HIV.
Right.
I don't think we're going to have all these deaths. And I believe what the country is doing right now is just trying to make sure that not everyone gets sick. Because what the fuck do we all look like having the flu around here? If we all get sick and this just becomes worse, it's just everybody's going to be sick. And we don't have, we don't know everything about it yet. Although I do think it's just a severe flu. And I think that if you don't have any autoimmune diseases or if you don't have anything else, you'll be fine. But at the end of the day, I even when it's just the regular flu or a cold or a pink eye,
you don't
want
want
to be
it.
around
Right.
you.
I still don't want it.
I don't want it. So when I see her at the gym, I was like, what are you doing? Why is your gym not closed? Wax's gym in his building is closed. Most everybody's gym is closed already. Why are you at the gym? She's like, oh, everybody can clean their own thing. And I said, you know what? I don't want you around me. And I messaged her exactly. I said, don't come to my house. I don't want your food. I don't want nothing because you are corona ridden. You don't know who lives in your building that's using this. It's open 24 hours. What if they're not cleaning? Even if you're cleaning, I don't know. I just find it irresponsible to go to the gym when you can work out outside or work out at home. We're quarantined at the end of the fucking day. I don't want what y'all got until the shit dies down a little.
This is a main reason why I felt like I had to take a couple of days off. I work in a doctor's office in the city. It's not life or death. I work for a hand surgeon. Like, let's get it. For real. I have people coming in talking about, I've had arthritis for 15 years and my thumb hurts. Stay your ass home. Nobody wants you in here. You're 70 years old. What are you doing?
Right. Just stay home. And there's nothing wrong with staying home. You can run outside. You can ride a bike. Somebody asked me, I think we were talking about it with Manny. She's like, well, what about being outside? I said, listen, it's not an airborne thing that when you walk outside, you're going to get the corona. You have to be around people, which is why they're limiting. It's just like the fucking flu. It's just the flu. We just don't know what kind of strain it is or whatever the fuck it is. But I'm running outside. It's open. We can go to the park. We can get on our bikes. We can go ride our bikes. We can do all of this. And I know that I think it's still a little bit colder in New York. It's hot as fuck here. And it might rain or whatever. But you can do a P90X on the TV. Sure. You can go outside and ride a bike. You can go for a walk. You can take your babies for a walk. Do all of this. Don't go to the gym and then expect to meet me here at my house for dinner. I don't want you. Ayana wants her friends over. No. I don't want them over. I don't know what their parents do, where they're going. I don't want them.
And everybody thinks that this is the time to have house parties and to have get-togethers and game nights. No. I am staying home. I am working on things that I need to work on, and that's it. Everything else can wait. First of all, it's not even summer yet. I mean, it's hot in Florida, but over here, I still don't really want to be outside. It's not that hot out. Right. I'm just going to be home.
You're home regardless. Like, we never get this chance to be home this often. Just stay home. Don't come around me. I'm actually even a little wary about Wax coming back. He just keeps flying, and his job doesn't stop. It's media. So they're still working. They're still around people, although most of the people are staying home is like the talent and some of the people that need to be there are there. But I'm like, you're still out. Like,
on that train. I don't know if he takes the train, but that train is disgusting.
Oh, no. Hell no.
Let me tell you.
No, he doesn't take a train.
I hate that fucking. I had to yell at somebody the other day. For what? Okay, so I'm on the train and I'm sitting next to the pole, right? This girl is standing over me because there's no more seats. So she's standing over me and then she starts to lean on the pole. I said, excuse me, ma'am, can you back up? She looked at me like I was crazy. I said, what if I were to cough in your face right now? Would you be upset?
She's like right there
on top of me.
Those trains, I realize people have no sense of. There's no personal space
at all.
In New York.
We don't know what that is.
There's no No, there is none. I will never forget. It was just a few times because I used to, since I didn't have a set schedule, so I can get on the train whenever. I didn't have to worry about rush hour. I can just let me wait until rush hour is over. But there were a few times where I did get on that. You had to wait for another train.
Oh, yeah.
Because you couldn't get in. And by the time you got in, it's like you're squished by the door or you're in the middle and you just smell everybody's armpit. And
it's totally so disgusting.
And I was there in the summer. So when it's cold, I didn't mind it when I would go up there in the cold. But in the summer, we're sweating. And people, where I was in the Bronx, I was right across from the train. So I was never sweating. I was never hot. But people had to walk blocks and miles to get to the train station. So by the time they got there, it was stank. They smelled like outside and musty. I'm like, ooh, you nasty. You have to sit next to me.
Let me tell you, New York City is disgusting. And I'm only here because I grew up here. It is so gross.
It's disgusting, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, there's just so many amazing
I only
things
love
about
New York in the summer, to be quite honest. Every other...
I don't see why anybody would love it outside of the summer. It's so stupid.
No, there's nothing to love. I promise you.
When it's cold. You love it when you know you can leave.
Right.
The winter is great over there when you know you can come back home. But anyways, Steph, I know you have not released your podcast and you don't have it ready, but how can they reach you? Because you need to have, by the way, you're thinking to open your social media. Is it private?
It's open. Oh, yeah.
It's open now?
It's open.
Okay, cool. So how can everyone find you? Like, thank you so much for coming on.
Of course,
by the way,
thank you for
it was fun. You're so good on the mic.
Thank you. Let me tell you, I love your podcast. I love your Instagram presence. I feel like I made a whole new group of friends on Instagram. I've been going on live and everybody's like, hey, Steph. I'm like, hey, guys. It's so much fun.
You don't understand how much fun we have during our virtual pajama parties for Patreon. Like, we
were lit.
And just hang. And then the best part about it, like I tell you, so if you guys aren't a Patreon, become a patron. And if you want to become one of our friends, like I think there were a few new people this last go around this month. And when it like died down a little bit, we're like, all right, well, let's interview you. Who are you? Why are you here? Where did you come from? Like,
it's amazing.
I think it was Ari gave the third degree, and we all literally really, really do become friends. So you're part of my community on Instagram, my community on Patreon. Now you're a student, which I love. What I've been able to build still like shocks me because I don't have it in real. It feels like it's not real people. It's all virtual. But then I'm like, we are real people. Like I can meet up with you. I can do a meetup and we can meet up. But how can everyone else listening to you and maybe they want to talk to you? Maybe they have a kid that they want to join a community. Like, oh, let me talk to somebody who has an autistic kid too. I'm going through something. How can they reach you? Because you're gonna be talking.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm on Instagram _StephyKiss StephyKiss. I also do makeup on the side. I just do it all. You know, in New York City, you have to have a bunch of side hustles.
Oh, you be doing makeup. You sure do. It's expensive.
Girl. So I do makeup on the side, Steffi Kiss MUA. I have a podcast coming up. We're launching April 1st. If you love the show Friends, yes! Girl, I grew up watching Friends. I don't know about y'all, but I love that fucking show. So we're going to do a deep dive. I'm going to have, guests on. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be fun. And then I also have another podcast where I talk about my weight loss journey. Like I said, I gained 80 pounds in 6 months and I lost 95 in a year. So, yeah.
I've been over here trying to lose 10 and I can't do it.
It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's so hard. It takes so much discipline. And I feel like I'm disciplining myself in other aspects of my life. But food and working out is one of those that I do really well for a couple of weeks and then I fall off. Like
it takes dedication, but I actually thank my son for that. He's the one that made me want to get into that weight loss journey because I have to be here for him. I don't have a choice.
Right. Yeah, you really do. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share with your friend. Tell your coworkers. Tell your mama, your sister, your brother, all of them, anybody who you think that might enjoy the episode or any of the episodes that you have heard. If you have not yet rated on Apple iTunes, you can do it on your computer, on an iPad. If you see somebody on the train and you have an Android and they have an Apple iPhone, be like, let me hold your phone real quick. Don't get slapped. But go on there, rate, review, tell us what you thought about this episode or the podcast itself. And next time I come on here, I will probably be reading your review on the show at the beginning. So just like I did this episode. So again, thank you so much for listening. You can find our Instagram, Shit I'm 30 Podcast, on Instagram and Twitter. But I use all throughout social media, Carla Wilmaris. And you can tweet me. Tell me what you liked about this episode. Make sure you screenshot. Let me know you're listening to it. What's your favorite part? And again, share so we can keep growing this platform. And hopefully soon I can bring y'all a live show.
Yay.
But
I'll be there. I can't wait. I'm flying down to Orlando to come see you for that meetup thing.
Listen, I probably should do it now so everyone's flight
is
like $50.
That's what I said. Hello.
Okay, maybe I'll think about it. You know what? You're right. I'll think about this. Let me put this into existence. All righty. Well, anyways, thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you again next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay, let me stop.
You want me to stop mine?